Welcome to part 2 of this video on the action drama that was in Bondo over the weekend, where it seems that Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka was introduced by Raila Odinga as the heir apparent, the person to take over from Raila, and especially for the 2027 presidential elections. Now, in my opinion, and I don't have to be right, in my opinion, I believe this was a smokescreen. It was a carefully crafted smokescreen. What is a smokescreen in politics? Something you create to divert the attention of your political opponents, your political enemies, from the really important things that you're up to right now. And so the idea is to keep them very busy with that smokescreen that you've introduced. And so this gives you room to operate and work secretly on your main project for the moment. That is what I believe. And the first big clue that has led me to this conclusion is the fact that Raila insiders leaked out information to top journalists, top bloggers, that actually something big was going to happen in Bondo involving Kalonzo Musyoka. That actually Kalonzo Musyoka was going to be endorsed by Baba for 2027. Now, this is not Raila Odinga's style. Raila Odinga never ever does these kinds of things when he's serious about something. He never releases information in advance. And so my thinking, the whole idea was to make this birthday party for Buru Odinga a very big issue, a very big event in the build-up to what Raila was going to say. Because, to be honest, he didn't actually endorse Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka. He just gave a big hint that when the time comes, that may be the Azimio candidate for the presidency. That's what he suggested. He didn't outright endorse Kalonzo. Now, don't get me wrong. There are many people who believe, including this blogger, that actually Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka is the man who will inherit Raila Odinga politically. I too believe the same. However, what I'm saying here is the timing. Okay? This is likely to happen in the future. But for now, there is another political game being played. Let us not forget that Raila Odinga has some very powerful enemies keeping a very close eye on him. And this would explain Raila's very strange behavior. Let me give you a quick example. You'll remember that at the start of the bipartisan talks, Raila Odinga gave a deadline. He said that after a month, if he sees there isn't much progress being made, Kenyans will go back to the streets. Raila will call for a continuation, season 3, I think, of Maandamano. And his supporters were looking forward to it. Then all of a sudden, Raila has all the patience in the world. And he has left a lot of his staunch supporters confused. He seems very relaxed. Even as we see in the bipartisan talks, things are not going the way they should. But Raila is relaxed. And he seems to be relying a lot on the bipartisan talks. And yet we know the character of the people on the other side. We know the character of one William Ruto. Do you want to tell me Raila does not know? No way. He knows better than us. Therefore, that produces a huge question mark. And it tells us that something else very big is brewing in the background. And that this Kalonzo Musyoka show was just a smokescreen. Now, when you use this tactic, even in a football game, You want to fool your opponents that your main striker is the one you're going to use in that game to score goals. And yet what you really want to do, because you know he's going to be very heavily marked, it is very easy for him to draw 2 or 3 defenders to him. You're going to use him as a feeder. The ball will be passed to him, but then meanwhile, your other strikers will have a lot of room to score. Yeah, as your star striker draws the defenders away from them to pay attention to him. And you know, for this deception to work, you also have to fool your fans. You don't tell your fans what you're doing. And therefore you want your fans to keep on shouting the name of this star striker of yours. You want your fans to keep on calling out to him to score. But deep down, you know the strategy. In this particular game is the smokescreen. This is exactly what is happening here. Now, my strong advice for you to understand what Raila's real game may be is please follow international politics. What is happening outside Kenya is extremely important, because I strongly believe it will impact in a major way with what is going to happen in Kenya next, and with what Raila Odinga is really up to politically. I mean, it should be clear to Kenyans that there is no way the Kenya Kwanza government, the Kenya Kwanza administration, can last until 2027. Even if Raila does nothing, it is very clear to those who understand politics that the Ruto administration is going to self-destruct shortly. Even if Raila Odinga does absolutely nothing. Yeah, but in this instance, I believe he will do 1 or 2 small things to nudge on, to speed up this self-destruct of the Kenya Kwanza administration. You know, even the recent further increase in petrol prices is very major. Kenyans are already hurting. And what happened on the 15th? Or rather on the 14th of this month? That is when it was announced to be implemented the next day on the 15th. Petrol prices shot up by another 5 shillings to reach record heights. Since the country called Kenya came into existence, petrol prices have never reached where they have reached now. Okay? And of course, the people announcing this in Kenya Kwanza tried to convince us that actually the government has cushioned us using something called the stabilization fund, that actually petroleum prices would have climbed even much higher. Yeah, that's the story we're given. But you know, in the international market, a barrel of oil, the price for it has not changed much. Yeah, really. And so, the government is taking Kenya for fools. And to make matters worse, there is a scandal brewing. There is a story emerging that itamaliza wa Kenya kabisa. And that is the suggestion that there are some people within the Kenya Kwanza administration that are benefiting from these high petrol prices in Kenya. Yeah. These individuals, of course, have companies based outside the country. In Dubai, for example. And these companies, we are never told who the directors are or who the real owners are. But actually, those companies belong to some Kenyans in the Kenya Kwanza administration. And the way they are making a killing is on the back of Kenyans and very high petrol prices. That Karuma has emerged. And if indeed it is true, and we are seeing more and more evidence that may suggest it is true. If indeed it is true, the way Kenyans are suffering right now. Anyway, the future of this administration should be very obvious, should be very clear for anybody who understands to see. And what is happening here is that Raila Odinga and Azimio and ODM are preparing themselves. And one of the ways they're doing that is by riding with the UDA narrative. Need I remind you where this story of Kalonzo came from? Do you remember? This story of Kalonzo being endorsed to face Ruto in 2027, it came from State House Nairobi. It came from the Ruto administration. It came from the Kenya Kwanza chaps. And we have seen this past weekend that what has happened, or it seems that is what has happened, is that Raila Odinga and Azimio have picked it up. Ruto's narrative, by the way, they have picked it up and they have elevated it up there and they're now promoting it. Doesn't that sound suspicious to you? Really? If nothing else I've said convinces you, doesn't that fact alone sound very, very suspicious? I think it does. So the big question is, what is Raila Odinga's real game plan? I don't know. I really don't know what it is. But there are many places to look for possible game plans of Raila. For instance, the opening of the servers, which should release to Kenyans the real results of the elections last August. How do you think angry Kenyans are going to take that when they discover the documented truth? Of course, it is also possible that the server has already been interfered with. In fact, that is the much more possible outcome out of opening the server. It is unlikely that the server with the real results will be opened, or a server showing the real results will be opened. But even that is going to get a reaction from Kenyan voters, because many are waiting with anticipation. And in this anticipation of theirs, they know one thing for sure, that the person who was declared winner by Wafula Chebukati in August 2022 was not the real winner. And therefore they're not going to be easy to fool, even if somebody changes the real results to that server that is conveniently out of the country, very far away. Kenyans will still react, and the way in which will react will not be favorable to the Ruto administration. Then there is the issue of the signatures that were being collected, which are really a vote of no confidence in this government from the people. There are some legal acrobatics that was supposed to produce. So that's yet another area where the real intentions of Azimio could be. But meanwhile, they have to be careful, especially very careful about these external factors. Very powerful people who have threatened Raila Odinga several times and caused the current situation where Raila is behaving completely out of character, but actually is being strategic. My gut feeling is that this retreat by Raila Odinga is not permanent. It is very temporary. It is strategic, waiting as something else unfolds in Kenya. But let's see what happens. Just to remind you once again about my epic audiobook. You can see details on your screens right now. The latest price, the latest offer is $24.55. It comes both as the audiobook and also in PDF format. So you can either read it or listen into it, or even both if you like. Please take action today and get your hands on this super sensitive information that I guarantee you will open your eyes like never before. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.